Mommytrack Daddy Whispers Podcast is now called Birth Agni Podcast.
Welcome to Mommytrack Daddy Whispers Podcast, Season 3.
There's nothing like, bringing your little one home for the first time and realizing that you know nothing. Having that communication and having that plan in place, for any parent really, but especially if you have the pre-existing depression and anxiety, I really encourage folks to know that this is going to be so transformational. And
Hi, my name is Divya. I am a certified lactation counselor, your host. Thank you for tuning in to this episode. Today's conversation is very dear to me. I have been waiting to have Joshua speak with us for over a year now and could finally, thankfully, send him a request and he agreed. Today we talk about postpartum depression and prenatal anxiety for men, which is less heard of. And while we are already embracing and learning to embrace maternal anxiety and bring support to make this transition more smooth for mothers, it's important to hear fathers as well as a family unit and involve them alongside. Joshua Mays is the dad coordinator for Postpartum Support International. He is also a nature-connected coach as well as a bachelor's in social work. I'm excited and thrilled to have him and speak with him today about his experience of postpartum and prenatal anxiety and the work he's been doing to support dads all through. Let us welcome him. So thank you so much, Joshua, for being with us today and speaking to us.
of course, thank you so much for having me. I'm glad we were able to connect.
Yeah, and Joshua, take us to the time when you became a parent. And was it really in the pregnancy that you had certain signs where you thought that probably I need to look at it differently? So when did it actually start that you now know that probably I should have collected the signs or garnered the signs right then?
Yeah. So it actually starts much before that. I have a pre-existing history of depression and anxiety, and all of the the mental health concerns, and I took those concerns into the pregnancy, and it was with the through the 9 months of pregnancy and trying to wrap my head around this new role that I'm about to take on. But there's nothing like bringing your little one home for the first time and realizing that you know nothing. And so just the amount of stress and the amount of just uncertainty and worry that I had, was I going to be a good father? Was I going to continue to be a good husband? Was I going to be, continue to be able to be a good employee at work? And all of these various roles that, I felt like I had to, perform 100% at everything. And it was really, scary for me to not have the tools or the information I needed to be able to, really take care of myself and take care of my family.
Yeah, and some of the things that I can relate to here is a history of anxiety, a history of, stress. So I had extreme postpartum anxiety, and it was way into it that when I had almost, healed, or when I had recognized that I have this, and I was finding support, is when my mom said, because then I opened up to her and said, look, I was going through all of this when I became a mother. And then she said, do you know that your father was depressed when my grandfather died? My grandfather died because of depression. My father got into depression.
and I have a family history of depression. And at that point in time, I was amazed. I was like, I never kind of connected the dots. I thought that, and anyway, when you are in anxiety, when you are under that phase, it's so involuntary, it's happening to you, you have no control. And but the history is something that I want to focus upon here. And what do you think, Joshua, that when new parents, when you get into this journey, which is very transformative, and in the new age that we are in, busy with our lives, with our works, and this becomes another phase of life, is it important to guide parents in, when you have a history, to really prepare you and get you all the answers, like you said, because answers is what we need as a starting point?
Yes, absolutely. So my wife and I, we did not have a birth plan. We didn't have, any, childbirth education or anything like that to help prepare us, for that transition. And I really wish that we had. I think that having that communication and having that plan in place, for any parent really, but especially if you have the pre-existing depression and anxiety, I really encourage folks to know that this is going to be so transformational, and have that conversation with their own parents. That may be something that has never been discussed before, but yeah, there's no better time to have that discussion than when you're starting your own family. And this perinatal mood disorders are so common in all aspects of the population, all aspects of life, that I'm certain that somebody who has experienced what you're experiencing. And so just having those open conversations and planning how you're going to have self-care, and be prepared for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and in a way, when it comes to becoming a parent, the birth education, having that community, because I was also thinking before this conversation, how despite being in a family setup, how little I spoke, like you said, to my own mother, how little I spoke to my mother-in-law, how things are going to be. And in my case, especially, one of the things that I feel lacked was, I never saw a baby. I had not, in my conscious memory, I did not remember how catering to a baby, or how, nurturing a baby looks like. So when I used to imagine, and in fact, even I did not have all that education. And in India, it's coming, it's becoming now. People are realizing that all of this is needed. And then all I used to imagine is going shopping with a 2-year-old. So I went from just being pregnant to delivering a baby and going shopping and swimming and all of that. and I never thought how probably an infant would not react to me, not respond to me, would just need me day in and day out. There will be sleep. Everybody talked about sleepless nights, but what it looked like, I wasn't prepared. So that's a great advice that you've brought out. So one of the things that I wanted to discuss with you is, was Amber your wife? I hope I'm pronouncing her name right.
Yes.
Was she was she able to recognize some of these signs in you in the pregnancy stage, maybe, or were there discussions around it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It really wasn't until later that was something that we were able to, come together and have a discussion about. Because during that time we were both in the midst of trying to figure life out, and trying to tend to our newborn. And like me, she has a history of depression. I don't think that the perinatal depression affected her as much. But, we were still in that new period. So in the midst of it, there weren't a lot of questions, but, looking back, it's, realizing that I was more detached from the family, more detached from my new daughter and more detached from my wife. And, so just, realizing after the fact. And, that's why I always want to reiterate to have that communication early, because, some of those conversations, could have happened between Amber and I, between my wife and I. And, and for us, it didn't. And, so I really encourage, other parents to have those open talks with their spouse.
Yeah, and especially in the pregnancy stage, because you have that time to probably bring out those fears. And because as a mother, you have some fears. There is the unsaid societal pressure. That was another thing that I was thinking about my journey as a new mother, that there is an unsaid pressure, or the pressure of you, the way you are. If you want to do things right, so you want to be like, you want to make sure that you tick the list of, you have that 1, 2, 3, okay, I am doing this right, doing that right, but you're not in the moment. So having that conversation in pregnancy becomes very important, because usually pregnancy is enjoyable, everything is just nice and goes on, and we don't realize how important it is as a transition that becomes abrupt, and it could have been dealt with in a better way if that kind of a conversation could have happened. So when is it, Joshua, that you realized that I need help and I need to talk it out, I need to speak about it, maybe to Amber, and then to like how you reached out to Postpartum Support International? And was it to get that support, or was it after you had already found support that you thought probably I'll give it back to the community?
When I realized that I probably could have benefited from support was pretty well after the fact. After we had settled into our routine, and I was becoming more familiar with my daughter and the new life that we had, and understanding that this should be great, right? Everybody says this is such a happy, wonderful time of your life, and no, this is not fun, this is not good. And so maybe I need a little something, a little extra support. But you asked about my journey to Postpartum Support International, and the way that the internet works, one link leads to another, and I didn't even know what I was looking for. I happened across their website. At the time, I didn't even realize how big of an organization, and the reach that the Postpartum Support International has. So I was, going through their website and realized that they're talking about me. There's a name for what I have. There's other people that are experiencing this. This isn't rare, but kind of the second piece of that was I really knew that I wanted to support other families. And so that was my very first glimpse into, now that I have a name for what I have experienced, how can I support other families? So it was like two different sides of that same coin, coming together at the same time. And it's, my experience with them has been, really beneficial in, learning more about myself, and at the same time being able to support other families.
That's wonderful, and a great way to give back to the community, and probably bring that community support, like make your own community. And really a great effort there, Joshua. And when you say that it healed you in certain ways, I'm making I mean, using my, I'm wording it in my own way.
Yes.
So when you say that it kind of affected you or helped you, how did those pieces come together? Did it bring you a kind of joy? Did it bring you a kind of satisfaction? Or it kind of helped you uncover certain aspects with every new conversation that probably was still not uncovered despite you having healed or gone through, gone ahead of that phase?
Yeah. For me, it was just a sense of understanding that I'm not alone in this. It doesn't mean that I am, failing as a dad or as a husband. It's okay to admit that this is an aspect of my life that I'm struggling with, and so just giving me that validation was so important.
Yeah, beautiful. So we always say that as new parents, we need more reassurance than anything.
Mm-hmm.
So right when you said that, you felt detached, one of the things that I've felt extremely hugely is the emotion of no love for my daughter starting on. So I thought, like they show in the movies, as soon as the baby is born, you have that kind of immediate connection, and the love the Cupid kind of hits you, and
Mm-hmm.
it's all glorious. It's the energy that comes in, the thunder comes in you when you become that mother or a parent, and nothing of that sort happened.
No.
I was so it's kind of like you're saying that it's kind of okay to start saying and not really siding your own emotions and saying that, yeah, I felt it. And then when you see that so many others felt it, probably it's a normal, so to say, normal way of transitioning.
Yeah.
And, when you need help, you can always go. When you're authentic about your emotions, you can always go and ask about it. And that's one of the beautiful aspects of your journey, that you spoke about your emotions quite authentically and accepted them quite authentically. And you also started Indiana Family Service. Would you like to tell us something about it? What was it started with, and how is it now that it's
Indiana Family Coaching Service is my life coaching practice based in Indiana, where I live, but it is available virtually, so I can reach anybody essentially worldwide, I suppose. Haven't had anybody out of the country, but it's not out of the realm of possibilities. But the mission of the coaching practice is to be able to primarily support dads. I think that new fathers have, in general, I think don't receive enough support, don't receive the same amount of support, the same type of support. And I really want to be part of that support team. I want to help normalize the feelings, that a lot of these parents are having, that this is, like you were saying, it's not like it is in the movies, in the shows, that this is, such a wonderful experience, in my own personal experience, and then in the, the conversations that I have with dads across the country through my work with Postpartum Support International. So many new dads are able to admit that this is a really rough period in their life. It's not maybe what they had envisioned for themselves or envisioned for their new family. Yeah. And so I want to bring awareness to that. I want to honor that journey and just be a support to these new families.
Yeah. And as a society, we are so put into brackets, and it subconsciously affects us. So as a mother, we kind of think that we need to give the baby everything and sacrifice. Mm-hmm. And that kind of a feeling is, even if you try and not have it, it's there in the subconscious mind. So as a father or as a partner, non-birthing partner, it becomes like you have to provide for the family. You have to provide, you have to probably help the baby with the baseball or something like that, and not really change diapers. Although things are diluting with time. But do you think even in your own journey, like, for example, for me, my expectations with myself were very stereotyped. When I was, I was a new mother. The journey actually kind of opened my eyes. But when you became a father, and probably during the entire pregnancy period, do you think all those um, societal unsaid pressure of putting people into brackets in the way, fathers are put into that bracket of providing, actually did kind of put pressure on you, and you did want to involve, but that kind of still was a pressure on you to perfect, like you said, be perfect everywhere, at the job, in the house. So
Yeah, there is a lot of, not only is it unspoken, just the societal pressures, but most of the businesses and most of the cities and states and at the federal level in the United States, there isn't guaranteed parental leave, for either parent, but especially for dads. There's very little paternal leave after the birth of your child, and I experienced that myself. I didn't get any additional leave from my job. I had a week's vacation that I was able to take, and then I had to go back to work, and I had to provide for my family. That's my job as the parent, and
yeah.
so I had to go back to work. And I miss out on those formative weeks and months that I wasn't able to have with my daughter and with my wife. And I really wish that that I had the opportunity, and that more parents had the opportunity to spend that time with their little ones and supporting their partners. I wonder, from for you, is that similar in India, or how does that look for you folks?
Yeah, it is very similar.
Yeah.
You get just leave of 5 days, paternal leave for 5 days, and then you can decide you want to take a month after the baby is born and right after the baby is born. But it's sad, like you said, paternal leave is important, especially now that we are in more of a nuclear family setup. And then again, partner support is something else. That support is really important.
Mm-hmm.
And the more we kind of change change it on all levels, like you said, the businesses, how the businesses are run, how the society sees it. And one of the things that I also feel here is that we see pregnancy and bringing a baby into the world as a very personal affair. How now I see it is, okay, it's a personal choice, you want to have a baby, but at the end of the day, it's more of a societal affair when it comes to raising the baby and the way the parents are treated and that effect on the child. Because the same human being is going to become, if I talk in a capitalist language, it's going to become the resource of tomorrow. So if you're not giving the parents the amount of time they should be spending with the baby, because the baby also needs it and the parents need it as human beings, they are, and if they are affected, the baby is going to be affected. That's very normal. So unless we bring that collective, holistic approach to parenting and thinking that it is a societal responsibility, because you are bringing the future of tomorrow into the world, and the way it is going to impact your businesses tomorrow. So talking about it from a very capitalist view, I always think that we need to, especially in India, a lot of offices do not have pumping space. And then it's always a debate that, after the maternity leave, women are not coming back. The ratio of women working has become less. But are we providing the structure? And there's so many people who are parents. If you don't provide that structure, you can't reap the benefits. if I talk again in a capitalist language. So I always think about that. It's nice that you brought that out, that paternal leave is not there. And it's only now that we have a 6 months leave for mothers. Earlier it was less, 3 months. And
my daughter is 6 years old, and I can say that there's been quite a lot of change. My wife was given additional time because she had to have a C-section, which was not part of our plan at all. But having the major surgery like that, she had to, she was granted extra time, which is beneficial. That was something that was offered to her. I can't imagine if she had to, felt like she had to return to work immediately. Like
Absolutely.
some parents unfortunately have to, some moms have to, shortly after giving birth. So I'm grateful that she was given time off. But you spoke to the societal safety net. There does seem to be a lot of pressure and expectation for starting a family, but that societal safety net of daycare and preschool isn't usually a guarantee. There's not always safe places to pump or to breastfeed. And looking further into the child's future, what does the education system look like? What does healthcare system look like? And all of these things that benefit society as a whole, that would benefit that child, that structure just often isn't there, or isn't available to all segments of the population, unfortunately. So there definitely needs to be a societal, holistic approach to how we treat and how we honor the family. I really believe there's not enough societal support to having a child going through pregnancy and the life change that happens around that, and that starts very early in the child's life.
Yeah, right from the paternal leave.
Yes.
I mean, changing that probably will bring a huge change in the way the parents are able to cope up with the new phase of life. And absolutely, you, Joshua, are also working as a nature connected coach. What is it? And did it really? And and I did go through the website and see, and it was really enticing. It was really I was very inquisitive. What is it?
Yeah.
And and I also wanted to ask you, did you become a nature connected coach after you become a parent, or you were a nature connected coach before? I mean, during that phase, and did it help you kind of? Additionally, I wanted to ask that also.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a really good question, and a lot of people are very curious about about that aspect of my training and that personal interest that I have. So I found the training organization called Earth-Based Institute. They're based in Colorado in the U.S. Again, the way that the internet is beautiful sometimes, just how one link can lead to another and connect people. And I found them after my daughter was already born, and I was really looking for a way to give back in some way. I'm kind of taking a brief step back from that question. I have a background in social work. That's what I went to school for. But I wasn't using it. I didn't have a job that I was using it, and I was not fulfilled. That was the path that I always wanted to go down. And unfortunately, I wasn't ever in a position to use those skills. So I was like, what is the next step? How do I find what is important to me? And so Earth-Based Institute offers the traditional life coaching training, which is interpersonal. You could almost call it counseling, We have to be very careful with our language. It is not counseling. It is,
Yeah.
I did not go to school for counseling, but, for the average person, the average listener, you could equate it to counseling. It's very much, the interpersonal, supportive communication and really helping folks to, build goals and how they can, translate that to their life. What sets Earth-Based Institute and the Nature Connected Coaching certification apart is all of the training is done on the land in the wilderness of Colorado, and it adds an extra layer of how you connect with your client and how you connect with yourself by bringing in nature, and the relationship that we have with the planet and the relationship that we have with the animals and the trees, and it, just the time spent out in nature in the mountains of Colorado, it's such a different experience than living in town, living in the city. And so I absolutely loved that training and all of the different coaching techniques that I learned that I can guide others on, but it's also a very internal process. Really helped me to learn things about myself and be able to really do a deep self exploration that I didn't experience anywhere else. And whenever I have the opportunity to use those skills elsewhere, but if I find somebody else that resonates with that, I definitely want to explore that with somebody.
Wow, it is really, it sounds really miraculous. And it sounds like when we talk about, even when we talk about birth, when we talk about parenting, when we say it's transformative, it requires a lot of inner work.
Mm-hmm.
And that inner work starts with trusting your body. And trusting your body starts with looking at nature and trusting the elements of nature around you.
Yes.
So it sounds really miraculous. I kind of had goosebumps, and it still sounds so connected, so deep within you. And I'm saying, wow, that you do all of this and you get to experience all of this. I also feel sometimes looking at nature, that when you look at nature and you do have a sense of wanting to get into the wilderness, like you said, because a part of us, because we belong there, we've built things around us, we've built this structure that kind of has made birth and parenting difficult, and then we actually belong there in nature.
Yes.
So it kind of is a really, it was a wow moment for me when you explained to me all of that. And is there something you would want to tell new fathers, or people, partners expecting, even mothers, or just in general, to be very inclusive, partners expecting? What would be your go-to, probably 2 or 3 things that you'd say that you should keep them in mind when you've embarked on this journey? What would be that? Just to keep it very simple.
Yeah. Goodness. Putting me on the spot there. We kind of keep coming back to the same topic, but the one of the big things that I really want to highlight is taking time to have that communication. So super important, and taking the time to have those big conversations with your spouse before the birth of your child, and making the time to have those conversations after the birth of the child. Just always finding a way to connect with your partner. And as I say that, I know how difficult that can be. When you are in the midst of being a brand new parent, and it's very difficult to take time out for yourself or take time out as a couple. And I get that and I respect that. But, any time that I, talk to new parents, I always recommend that. How can you find a time to connect with each other? Because I think so much of what we experience is being lonely. Birth can be, birth and new parenting can be such a lonesome experience. I mentioned communication, but I also think having community is another aspect that I think is really important for for both parents or single parents or whatever your family structure looks like. Build as big of a community as you can. If you are able to have your parents, your family nearby, invite them in, invite your friends, coworkers, faith community, whoever is important in your life, invite them into your home. And I think often it is very common to want to kind of wall yourself off and just focus on yourself and focus on the baby. And there's always the saying that it takes a village, and I think people are quick to kind of throw that phrase around, but I think it is very important. And we as a society, I don't think that we give the village a chance to survive, maybe, because we don't invite them in. And so that's something that always comes up in the conversations that I have with dads, is what does your support system look like, and how can we expand that circle? If they tell me that they don't really have anybody, then how can we find them? Is that in a faith community? Is it in a new parents group? What do you need to get more involved with on this journey? I think that was 2. but also taking time for yourself. It's so easy to turn all of the focus onto the baby and completely neglect yourself. Whether you're mom or dad, just completely neglect your own needs, your own interests, and that goes back to lonesomeness. Everything that you were interested in, you've allowed to wither away. And so being able to take time for yourself, and once a week go out with your friends, and as long as you have that communication with your spouse that this is what I need, I'm coming back, I need just a couple hours, and be able to have that communication, because it's so important to be able to not lose yourself.
I think that's a great point, to not lose yourself in the process.
Yes.
Because as long as if you held yourself, you'll be able to hold the baby.
Yes.
And hold the family. That's beautiful. And the lonesomeness part, it kind of resonated with me so strongly. I was having this conversation with my friend only yesterday, and she was telling me that I kind of feel alone in this parenting journey. And probably from there on, we come to the second point you said, communication. And, we eventually did have, she was communicating with me, but she also needs to communicate with her partner that she's feeling lonely in this. And probably he's also feeling lonely. He is also, thinking that probably I need to do this. But he's also scared of a few things that probably you are doing it with, it gives you some sort of a satisfaction. So I don't want to enter into that space. But if you want, your partner to come into that space and you're feeling lonely, communicate, then build that community, talk to other people, and then do things as you like. I think those are the 3 gold things that you've just mentioned. And with that, I will wrap up this conversation. And I would say that it was lovely to talk to you, Joshua. It was personal. It was like talking to a friend, and I really hope we can connect sometime, in the future. And before ending, I also wanted to ask, how can people in India reach out to Postpartum Support International, reach out to you if they need support, if they are listening to this and they think that there are certain things that they would want support for?
Yeah, absolutely. Postpartum Support International, as the name implies, it is an international organization. So we are able to serve, folks there in India. We have a whole international team. If they are able to go to our website, just go to postpartum.net. If they have access to get to the website, there's simple form to fill out, and a member of the team would get in touch with them and help them find whatever appropriate resources there are in their area. And as far as talking to me, wherever you're at in the world, we'll try to connect and see how I can best support you. Throughout this conversation, I think it's been really interesting how we are worlds apart. It's as we're talking right now, it's a different day where you're at right now, and so just we may think that there's so many differences between our countries and our cultures, but parenthood is the uniting factor, I think amongst all cultures. So know that I definitely would be able to support anybody internationally or any heritage, here in the States. I think that the common bond of being a parent supersedes any of those other, cultural differences that we may have.
Right. Thank you so much, Joshua, for taking out the time and for doing it with us today. Thank you so much. I'm really grateful and really delighted. And I hope this resonates with all the parents that are listening to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was it. And I'm really thankful to Joshua for speaking up and speaking about his personal experiences, alongside having this passion to help dads through various mediums. It's very important to hear all sides of the coin, to hear the stories of men and women and everybody who's involved in birthing and parenting and that transformation. So I'm really thankful. We did another episode with Rajat Mittal wherein he spoke about his experiences of vulnerability, of patriarchy as we see it. If you haven't tuned into that yet, please tune in. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers. And thank you so much. On the next episode, we'll talk to Doula Keesha. The episode that has been on the hold because we wanted to bring out this yearly segment on the Father's Day. Episode and conversation with Doula Keesha about emotional impact of birth will be out very soon. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't yet subscribe to the show and you like what you're hearing, do subscribe to it and drop us a review and rating. If the application you're listening to it from allows it, share it with a friend who may benefit out of this. Thank you so much. Stay tuned.